Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitangscha. So we are continuing with Sri Sanatana Goswami's Brhad Bhagavatamrta, Part 2, Chapter 6, Abhishta Labha Nama, attainment of the final desire. So Sri Gopakumara is still talking to the Brahmana. Sri Gopakumara said, Bo Brahmana, following the instructions of Sri Narada, I started singing melodiously the enchanting Krishna Nama and also his transcendental Braja pastimes with deep meditation without any interruption and lived at Sri Vrindavan. On my visit to the sportive groves associated with Sri Krishna's respective sports, what a spiritual sentiment I felt, and what a characteristic transport I had. Now I feel ashamed to think of that feeling of myself. Therefore, how can I expose myself about it to someone else? Day in and day out, I most pitiably lamented due to pangs of separation with the words, my beloved. I did not know the passage of a great number of days in lamentation. I really could not judge whether all my performances and endeavors ultimately brought for me the reward of blissful happiness or plunged me into the ocean of sorrows. Nay, I could not come to any conclusion whether I was amidst the flames of the causeless fire or really floating in the nectar, like blissful current of the supremely pure and transcendent waters of the Sri Jamuna. Sometimes it so happened I felt as if I was enticed by some witty enchanter. It plunged me into the endless ocean of sorrows. Thus, while I was spending my days at this Nikunja Grova, one day it so happened that I entered into a trance, and the very grace embodiment connoisseur Sri Madana Gopala, flute in hand, appeared before me with his blissful lotus palms, was removing dust from my body. That witty enchanter cleverly put into my nostrils the wonderful fragrance of his personal beauty, and thereby making manifestation of his own self into my heart, and made me composed. Soon I looked upon his all-attracting face. I hurriedly got up, and with an enhanced loving poignancy, while I tried to catch hold of his most luxurious yellow garment, he, the witty connoisseur kissing the flute with his blissful lips, started moving towards his back, keeping his enchanting face towards me, and no sooner he entered into a grove. I ran after him, but I could have no trace of him. And then, in pangs of separation from him, I once again fell into a trance, and floating into the most blissful current of Sri Jamuna, time passed. At last, at the soothing allurement of the Jamuna, I could compose myself, and when I opened my eyes, I saw that I was carried away in a most speediest plane, whose speed was far, far superior to the run of the mind. I was passing through a most wonderful world, and ultimately I could realize with the composition of my mind that I was passing through Vaikuntha, and gradually visiting all those lands of Ayodhya, Dwarka, etc., where I inhabited heretofore. Finally, my plane took me to the most illustrious and brilliantly effulgent Sri Goloka, which is the paramount land above all the worlds, including Sri Vaikuntha, and that is the very sanctum sanctorum of Sri Madanagopala, the presiding deity of my soul. Ah, to my extreme joy, I could see all the nomenclatures and phenomena of the circle of Sri Mathura, as it were. Sri Mathura circle is the very replica of that Goloka. Therefore, at that time, I was struck with wonder and felt extremely joyous, having had my most favorite place at that highest transcendental plane. There I heard Kamsa, dethroning his father Ugrasena, himself becoming the king and imprisoned Sri Devaki and Vasudeva. Being oppressed by Kamsa and his tyrannical advisers, the Yadavas were much handicapped to move about. Some of them, having received cruel treatment from Kamsa, had already taken to their heels to other lands, and others, finding no other go, still ate his rice. Therefore, without finding any safety for myself, I soon left that Mathurapuri, and having my ablution at the Keshi Ghat, without any loss of time, I approached Sri Vrindavan. Ah, I was much delighted, and plunged myself into the ocean of bliss, having had the same phenomena like sunrise, beaming of the moonlight, and all the customs and manners, and even the same languages that were spoken by the inhabitants of the great land of Aryans, viz. Bharatavarsha, at that Goloka, Vrindavan, although I knew pretty well that this transcendental Goloka cannot be attained even by the gods, including the sun, the moon, Indra, and even Brahma. Nay, Garuda, the personal attendant of Sri Narayana, Lord of Vaikuntha, and such others also cannot approach to this highest plane of transcendental bliss. After a while, I saw people like the Gopas were moving about in the woods, and old ladies like the Gopis were plucking flowers. But one thing I observed, that those people were having quite different movement, as it were. They were robbed of the treasure of their heart, and therefore impatiently roaming about. At their feeling I was also moved, and felt perturbation, but patiently I composed myself, and then politely asked them, "Bho, the emperors of the sovereignty of nectarine blissful treasure for the Paramahamsa crest-jewel devotees of the Lord. Ah, the love intoxicated nectarine bliss that is now enjoyed by you is beyond the attainment of the Paramahamsa devotees. Nay, even the crest-jewel devotees of the consort of Sri Lakshmi even beg unto you. I, as a destitute, stand at your mercy. Be gracious upon me, and kindly tell me, who is the emperor of this sovereignty? Where does he stay, and how may I be led to his palace? Bho, Bho, the most blessed selves, I most humbly beg you, be gracious unto me. Nay, if you have observed any vow of silence, then at least by movement of your fingers give an answer to my query. Oh, now I understand. When you have not given any response to my such earnest query, then you all might have been enticed by that witty connoisseur. I proceeded further, but whomsoever I met, I humbly asked him the same question, but none made any remark to me. Still I proceeded, and noticed at a distance a residential place, but first I saw numbers of cows, from which I understood it was inhabited by Gopas. On my approach, I observed how magnificent and brilliantly enchanting the beauty of this land was. From all sides a rattling sound of the churning of the curd by the gopis, as also the tinkling of their bangles. Ah, Their most melodious singing of Sri Krishna's pastimes sweetened my ears with rapturous enchantment. I was overpowered with an ecstatic perturbation, yet with my utmost care I composed myself and followed the music, and to my good luck I came across an old lady who was flooding her breast with shedding tears, impatiently crying, "Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." But when I, with my folded palms, earnestly asked her, "Where does Sri Krishna live?" she, with her broken speech, said, "That is the city of King Nanda, father of Krishna." As soon as these words entered into my ears, I was plunged into the ocean of bliss and entered into a trance. The most kind-hearted old lady nourished me, and when I was composed, at once I hastened to the gateway of the city and sat there. What a marvel! I had a vision of millions and millions of beatific excellencies which never I had heretofore. Those wonderful marvels are realized only by those who are endowed with the exceptionally special favor of that Braja sentiment, otherwise by none else. Oh, the blessed Brahmin, I could not get the mystery unfolded, that whether the inhabitants of that place were really floating in the blissful ocean or drowned in suffocation in the current of melancholy. Nay, the outburst lamentation of the gopis were whether by dint of outpouring of their rejoicing of heart's contentment or passionate expression of their grief, that I could not judge then. Even having stayed at Goloka, I presupposed, as it were, I was dwelling at the phenomenal world itself, Mathura Mandara. But in no time I had the visualization that I was dwelling at Goloka, with its paramount transcendental plane even far above Sri Vaikuntha. Anyhow, next, when I saw an old lady coming, I asked her, "Where does the darling of Sri Nanda sport today?" The blessed old lady said, "Sri Balarama has gone to the woods for sporting in the morning itself. Ah, he is the very cynosure, nay, the soul of our body. Just now, at this twilight time, as usual, he will be returning. Look, all the inhabitants of Braja are casting their covetous and thirsty glances towards the road leading to the Jamuna, through which path the enchanter of our soul will come. Nay, the trees and creepers are also sanguine to welcome him, for they have quite opened their foliages with blossoms." Sri Gopakumara said, "Brahmin, listening to the words of the lady, I felt myself extremely fortunate to have the sight of Sri Krishna. I enthusiastically awaited his arrival there. But out of the excessive joy, my both the thighs became stupefied, yet somehow, with utmost labour, I proceeded a few steps, wherefrom I could hear the most sweetening music coming from a distance. Ah, what an enchantment! Although it was an inarticulate melody, but the mysterious melody of his all-attractive flute enraptures passionate poignancy of love of the gopis. It flows with all the 6 principal modes of music, including the other 36 secondary modes, and with what a magic influence of the songs of the flute that it enlivens even inanimate objects and makes spellbound all the sentient beings. From the trees the juicy liquids were flowing out. Joyful tears rolled down the cheeks of the people there. Ah, the elderly ladies cherish motherly love for him. Even the nurse mothers are having profusely the flow of milk from their breasts, and the Jamuna by her high tide with upwards flow of current. Oh ho! To speak the truth, I was puzzled to make out whether this song of the flute was the volcanic eruption of poison or actually pouring out the sweetest nectarine bliss. Again, whether it was a thunderbolt piercing into the hearts, or a soft thing, calm as water, once again, whether it was the flames of fire or quiet calmness as the beaming moon. The music of the mysterious flute made the people of Braja completely maddened. Still wonders happened. Lo, I saw some of the Cupid gopis coming out, running from their doors with some presentations for Sri Krishna, and others carrying on their heads some eatable materials. Still others, with natural shyness, were hastening with their stumbling legs. Still others sought the presence of Sri Krishna with their garments and jewels wrongly placed. Still others, who were bedecking their person, hastened in unfinished manner. Some others, who were inside the houses and could not find their way out for sally, became motionless as a tree, and still others fell unconscious in contemplation of the Lord and fell down on the floor. Some of the gopis on their way fell unconscious, and foam was coming out of their mouth, yet they were carried by their passionate love, were consoled by their associates, saying, Lo, Saki, the treasure of your heart is expected here at any moment. Having their mind lured by the music of the flute, they sallied forth from all sides to meet their beloved on the bank of the Jamuna, forgetful of their skirts that got loosened and unsettled. They resorted to chanting his name and pastimes. Lo, their magnanimity surpasses the fortunes of the consort of Narayana. Therefore I followed the running gopis to reach the bank of the Jamuna, but I felt as it was actually pulled by someone to accompany them. Next, at a distance, Sri Krishna, flute in his hands, accompanied by his comrades and cows, hurriedly came forward and addressed, Bo Sri Dama, ah, here I meet my most beloved friend Sarupa, who is the very jewel of your clan. Oh, Brahmana, what a bliss! At that time Sri Krishna was bedecked with silvern dress, and the Kadamba garland was brilliantly shining on him. He had yellow garments, and the peacock's tail on the crown of his head. The sweet fragrance of from his person was spreading all around, and the maddening sportive smile on his lips, ever fresh, gladdening beauty on his eyes, like the blissful beaming moon. Clothed in the beauty of eternal spring, he beamed with all his effulgence. His fingers of the lotus palms were quickening to redress his curling tress of fine hairs which were falling over his forehead, but they were more beautified due to falling of fine dusts that were blown by the movement of the cows. His movement in a pastime of dancing actually marveled all. The footprints of his lotus feet are the supreme treasure of the earth. The beauty paramount, eternally adolescent Shama Sundara form, which is the most pleasing and enduring beckoner of the heart of the devotees of Goloka, the most dazzling effulgence of his brilliantly radiating sable form illuminates all the directions. Nay, at his very sight I lost myself in an ecstatic trance. Whereas Sri Krishna, due to his affection to this humble self, in a jump approached me and, holding me into his bosom, fell on the gracious. Soon I could make myself composed, and I saw the Lord still holding his hands round my neck and remaining in a trance. Tears from his eyes made the road muddy. By then the gopis came close by and lamented, saying, who is this stranger? Oh, we are undone. Who has brought this condition to our beloved? Void of Krishna is void of life to us. Next, looking towards me, they remarked, this stranger might be a spy of Kamsa, the king of demons who possesses elusive powers. Others at once contradicting the remark said, No, Our beloved Sri Krishna's unconsciousness may be due to some other reason, but all of them surrounded Sri Krishna, and with their lamentation and tearful eyes. In the meantime, all the Gopas hastened to the spot, and meeting Sri Krishna at the posture, piteously cried out. Hearing this hue and cry, Sri Nanda, Sri Yashoda, and other old ladies of Braja, including the servants and their maids, hastened to the spot, and observing Sri Krishna, their darling, at that condition, became completely nonplussed, and so only a hue and cry spread out all over the air. Not only that, but also the cows, bulls, calves, and the antelope deer hurried there with their bowed head, shed tears. They piteously cried and licked his body. The birds in the sky were making noise, flying over his head again and again. Ah, the situation was no stance that the trees suddenly became dried up. Nay, to speak the truth, all the sentient and non-sentient beings were moved at this sorrowful event, at which I, too, was plunged into the ocean of sorrow, and being perturbed, I lost my memory, and without having any conclusion, I placed my head on his legs and bitterly lamented. Anyhow, Sri Baladeva, the elder brother of Sri Krishna, who was also having the silvern dress, but wearing blue garments and of gold complexion, runningly from a distance hastened there. Although he was an expert to read out the mind of Sri Krishna, yet was moved at that sight of his younger brother and cried out. Somehow he soon composed himself and looked indifferently all around. When he sighted me, he affectionately caught hold of me, and carefully he himself put both my hands round the neck of Sri Krishna. Next, as per the instruction of Sri Balarama, I removed the dust from the body of Sri Krishna with my own hands, and with addressing Krishna, Krishna, get up, get up, I lifted him from the earth. Soon Sri Krishna opened his lotus eyes, which were still full of tears, and at once most affectionately held me into his bosom, and also kissed my cheeks. But when he saw others, he felt shy, as if after long sojourn he met his bosom friend. With his lotus palm of the left hand he caught hold of my right hand, and most affectionately asked me many things about my welfare, and then, to the excessive joy of the Gopas and Gopis, he, like a leader of the herd of elephants, majestically proceeded towards Nanda Braja. Only the forest deer could not follow him. They remained there itself with the feeling of the pang of separation, but cherishing the idea to meet the Lord again on the morrow. They spent the night there as such, whereas the birds were flying over closely following the Lord, but at nightfall, being prevented to have the darshan of the Lord, they with lamentation went out. Next, by the time the gopis milked the cows, and although Sri Krishna and Balarama still wanted to play with the calves, but out of extreme affection, Sri Nanda Maharaja took them inside. At the very sight of both of them, milk poured out from the mammary glands of Sri Yashoda and Sri Rohini, and also joyful tears rolled down their cheeks, making their garments completely drenched. They quickened to cleanse every limb of their body. Mother Yashoda, waving her hairs, invoked the blessings upon Sri Krishna and kissed his cheeks time and again. What a supernatural affection she had! As such, it showed, as it were, whether she should keep the boy as a crown of her head, or hold him ever into her bosom, nay, whether to hide him in the core of her heart. Then Sri Krishna most affectionately took me along with him, and I paid my obeisance to Mother Yashoda, who, observing Sri Krishna's love for me, at once treated me like her son and invoked her blessings. Next, when Mother Yashoda wanted to give a light bath to her darling Sri Krishna. At that time, some of the love-laden gopis intentionally approached her, at which Sri Krishna, who is the paramount witty connoisseur, cleverly told the Mother Yashoda, "Bo, Mother, we both brothers are extremely hungry. So better you both, along with Rohini Devi, make ready our repast, so that, along with father, soon we may appease our hunger." Taking advantage of such remarks of their beloved, the gopis told, "Bo, Queen Yashoda, Bo Sri Rohini Devi, let you both go, and we shall do the needful and give a pleasant bath to Sri Krishna and Balarama." On their request, both Sri Yashoda and Sri Rohini Devi left to attend the kitchen, but Mother Yashoda advised the gopis first to attend to Balarama, so that after finishing his bath he may go to bring Sri Nanda Maharaja. Sri Sarupa said, so now Gopakumara is called Sarupa. The gopis were extremely pleased when both the mothers responded to their request. Some of them quickly to attend Sri Balarama, and soon Balarama was sent inside. Then all of them joined together to give a most pleasant bath to Sri Krishna. They humorously cleansed the limbs of his with their own cloths, but when they saw the flute, every one of them wanted to hold it. Every one showed her utmost eagerness to have it, at which the witty connoisseur Sri Krishna made a sign to me when I stretched my hand on his back, and at once he stealthily passed on the flute to me. Ah! First they anointed ingeniously best perfumed oil on his body, although they did most carefully with their so soft and comfortable lotus-like palms, but the witty connoisseur cried out as if he got a great pain due to their anointment, at which Mother Yashoda hurriedly came out and asked, "What happened? What happened?" But soon she saw her darling Sri Krishna's smiling face. She went back to attend the kitchen. First the gopis got a little fear, but soon they understood it was a joke that Sri Krishna had cut with them, and then they, with their melodious songs in their lips, completed the part of their work. Next they started to sprinkle water on his person, lightly warm water of the Jamuna, kept in a number of gold pots that they took with the help of smaller pitchers and showered on his body. Alongside they did a good deal of bantering with him. Afterwards they pleasantly dressed him with the materials that they brought from their respective houses, such as fine garlands, superfine scented perfume, clothes, and very many ornaments. It looked, as it were, an unparalleled connoisseur in amorous intrigues. Now the gopis secretly gave him some refreshment, and then they performed some aratik to him with respective materials, viz., camphor, lamps, incense, etc., and after that they touched their heads with the offered materials. Then finally they painted different signs on his forehead, cheeks, and neck, and placing pleasantly scented sandalwood paste, best musk and saffron, Sri Krishna, observing the cupid love of the gopis, made an amorous glance upon them, at which, as if they felt ashamed and quickly composed themselves, then trickily they wanted to put collyrium into his eyes. Sri Krishna narrated before them about his pleasant sports in the woods, and then Sri Krishna created further cupidity in their hearts by his witty utterances, and cogently enticed them by touching their mammary glands with his hands. The witty connoisseur wanted the hearts of the gopis still further to be flooded with cupidity. Therefore, time and again, he removed the painted signs from his forehead, so stating, "They are not at all good." Thereby, he chanced the lured gopis to touch his body once again. In the meantime, Mother Yashoda came out, and finding that her darling still was attended to by the gopis, she angrily addressed them. She, Yashoda, said, "Lo, prankful girls, still having childish prank, yet so many of you could not finish his bath and dressing, having spent such a long time? Sri Sarupa said, observing the feelings of the gopis who were thirstily glancing upon Sri Krishna's face, an old lady sarcastically told, Lord Yashoda, you are blindly affectionate to your darling. Come nearer, and on your observation you will laugh that these prankful girls have made your Shyama-hued darling golden complexioned. Hearing these remarks of that old lady, who was none but Mukara, Mother Yashoda came out, and in an angry mode replied, Ah, if all the beauties of the universe are accumulated and placed at the feet of my darling, yet their whole charm will be lost before the brilliantly shining beauty of the toe of my child. Nay, the brilliantly shining Shyamasundara's complexion of my darling is the paramount glory of the beatific nature with all its excellence. Further, you should know it as the fact that if all the beauties of these girls are accomplished, yet they are not fit to be glory of the feet of my darling. Sri Sarupa said, O Brahmin, and how can I speak to you about the glory of the darling of Mother Yashoda? What a super excellent paramountcy of his beatific aspects, and that what a brilliancy of the dazzling effulgence of his darkened form! Nothing can come to comparison with it. Nay, it is a mistake to exemplify any aspect of his body, even with the lotus, such as lotus eyes, lotus palms, lotus feet, etc. Even all the incarnations, including Sri Narayana of Vaikuntha, cannot stand before him. What more, even his own self-manifestation at Dwarka cannot stand before this beatific manifestation of his in Braja as the darling of Yashoda. It is only at Braja the paramount beatific Shyamasundara form shines with all its super excellence. But only one comparison suits, and that is of Sri Radha's characteristic excellence. As Sri Krishna is the supreme paramount connoisseur, similarly Sri Radha possesses supreme lucid cupidity, to which alone Sri Krishna surrenders himself. Here alone we find that Sri Radha's super excellent transcendental beauty enticing Sri Krishna. Next, when the gopis came to know that Nanda Maharaja along with Baladeva was approaching, all the gopis took to their heels, and soon Sri Krishna joined his father. Sri Nanda sat on the gold seat for his repast, and Sri Krishna sat to his left, and Sri Balarama to his right. I too, on their persistence, sat just in the front row. Sri Rohini Devi was supplying from the kitchen room the most delicious eatables in gold and silver pots, and Sri Yashoda served them most lovingly. Ah, Sri Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, sumptuously ate all the variety of foods. Oh ho! At a time, keeping a number of cups full of eatables on a big gold plate, he quickened to swallow them up. And again, sometimes Mother Yashoda directly put some chosen food into his mouth. Sometimes Sri Nanda Maharaj put his finger into his mouth with a morsel of food, and Baladeva too did the same. All that out of excessive affection for him. From time to time, Sri Krishna was sipping water from a gold cup. Ah, first he took milk-prepared puddings as well as ghee in preparations, followed by varieties of sweets with milk and ghee, besides rice, dal, curry, curd, milk, and lastly he took buttermilk. I also had to follow him. Ah, while he was eating, how pleasant it was to see his crimson-coloured lips, charming tongue, beautiful cheeks, and moon-like lotus face. Really, it was the best feast of the eyes to look to his dancing eyes, as well as his eyebrows. It is beyond the expression of mind and speech. In the meantime, many of the gopis brought so many varieties of sweets prepared out of condensed milk ghee, sugar, and honey, and offered them all in time to Yashoda for the repast of Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna noticed that the gopis were observing him from their hidings, and for their satisfaction he was expressing his delightfulness as he took the particular sweets as, "Ah, this is very tasty, this is very good." So saying, a portion of all of them he threw on my plate, and I had to eat them. Finally, Sri Yashoda kept by the left side of Sri Krishna the best sweets, prepared by Sri Radhika with all her love and care. The sweets are specially known as Manohara Laddus. For Sri Krishna may take himself as much as he can, but what the witty connoisseur did, he just took a bit of it with the help of his thumb and finger, and soon he placed it into his mouth. He expressed a feeling as if he took some pungent, bitter and neem-like thing, and then remarked, "Bo, Radha, this Manohara Laddu may come to the good taste of Sarupa, as he belongs to your brother's clan." So saying, he threw it on my plate, but when I ate it, I really felt it the best one, and was surprised at the sarcastic remarks of Sri Krishna. At which Sri Baladeva, who could read out his mind, simply laughed at his witty remarks, whereas Mother Yashoda showed her anger towards Sri Radhika. Nanda Maharaj was surprised, but some of the associates of Sri Radhika, without understanding it, were pained at heart, and some other clever gopis were pleased at heart. Sri Radhika, although she could understand the meaning of the sarcastic remarks of Sri Krishna, yet at the rebukes of Mother Yashoda, she showed a frowning of her eyebrows towards Sri Krishna from her hiding, which Sri Krishna could notice, and to make her pleased at heart, he too, by ticing of his eyes and side smiling, gave a further hint of his heart. At once I could understand the game. Sri Krishna's acts of sarcastic expression of bitter taste against the best sweets of Sri Radha's offer was nothing but to entice Sri Radha's allurement. Next, finishing his sumptuous repast, he chewed betel leaves, and after chewing a portion of it, he put it into my mouth. Lo, even then he was ticing his eyes, remarking towards Sri Radha. Most affectionate mother, Sri Yashoda, uttered some special mantras, and time and again rolled her left palm on the belly of Sri Krishna for his easy digestion. Sri Nanda Maharaj went to his own bedroom for rest, and Balarama, who could read the heart of Sri Krishna, soon went for rest. Now Sri Krishna, just walking on the courtyard, with songs in his lips, and enraptured the cupidity of the gopis who were present there. But for repeated calls for rest from his mother Yashoda, he went to his bedroom and lied on a most comfortable soft bed, as if the bed was like the foam of milk. It was a gold cot inlaid with gems, and very fine pillows, shining like full moon, without any spot, and were placed on his both sides and below the head, under the head. Ah, how beautiful it was! It suited the room, which was most gorgeously decorated with the best use of the treasury, besides burning of incense like aguru, and the fragrance of the garlands also lent the air. Verily, transcendental Cupid, Sri Radha, was supplying betals into his mouth, and Sri Chandravali was as well as Sri Lalita Devi were attending to his feet. Among other gopis, some were holding chamaras, some spittoons, some betel leaves, some others holding golden flagon full of drinking water, and so on and so forth. Each of them was engaged in the respective devotional service. Some other gopis were singing melodiously, accompanied with musical instruments, to the great delight of Sri Krishna, and still others were cutting jokes with their suavity. Each of them felt proud of their respective service, and accordingly Sri Krishna brought delight by offering his chewed betel to each individual of them, but the secret behind it was that the respective one to whom he offered it alone could know, and none else. Thus the witty connoisseur no doubt delighted each of the gopis, but Sri Radha's super-excellent love subdued him, and at her luring enticing remarks he desired to retire for rest. So he ticed his eyes, at which all the gopis with their mirth and gaiety left for their respective homes. Bo Brahmana! Just then Sri Dharma came to the room of Sri Krishna and asked me to follow him unto his room. Regarding further sports of the Lord at night, I am unable to narrate to you. I spent the night in a great pang of separation at the house of Sri Dharma, and at the break of day I hastened to the house of Sri Nanda Maharaja, and straightly entered into the room as if Sri Krishna, when still he was asleep on the cot, and on his person some marks of amorous copulation were clearly visible. But Mother Yashoda in the meantime came there, and with her blind affection petted him, saying, "Oh, my darling roamed about in the woods throughout the day, and have become dead tired, therefore still having sleep. Ah, this inconsolable boy ran hither and thither in the bushes, and the merciless thorns thereof have wounded at a number of places his soft body of my darling." Further she said, "Oh, how painful! My this darling has rubbed the collyrium of his own eyes and his lips during the disturbance of his sleep." He again, when he changed his side during the sleep, the saliva due to chewing came out and marked on his cheeks, including his gold chain, as well as the garlands, but he knew not that due to sleep. Further, he might have played on the crimson-coloured dust of the Jamuna bank, which still remained on his person. How is it? Although he was given a good bath on his return, yet they exist on his person. Nay, the frolicsome gopis who looked after his bath were careless, due to which those stains still remain. Sri Sarupa said, "But the Gopikas in the meantime came to the house of Sri Nanda Maharaja, and having heard of Mother Yashoda's remarks, they were at first afraid whether their sports with Sri Krishna at night might be apprehended by Sri Yashoda. But the next moment they felt cheerful with the conclusion that Mother Yashoda apprehended them as marks of his sports in the woods during the daytime. Yet they were enticing each other by their oblique glances, remarking amorous signs still existing throughout the body of their beloved Sri Krishna. At that time their faces became so beautiful, like that of beaming moons." Can we pause there? Mathura.
Yep. Okay. Pause. Pause. Okay.
Sri Krishna got up late. Sri Yashoda gave him a bath, along with Balaram, and then bedecked him with fine ornaments, and thereafter served both of them morning tiffin. Afterwards, she decorated him tastefully to suit his Vana Leela in the woods. Although all the gopis knew about their would-be pang of separation while Sri Krishna remained in the woods during the daytime, yet to wish him well, sang the invocating prayers and placed consecrated pitchers full of water and mango foliages at the doorway. On the request of Mother Yashoda, the old Brahmin ladies and the elderly gopis blessed him. So affectionate she was that while Sri Krishna, along with Balaram, just started his journey, she, Mother Yashoda, again approached him and invoked once again her blessings, and also ties some medicinal roots on his hands, so as to keep any danger not befalling upon him. Mother Yashoda gave a tiffin carrier for his dinner, which was carried by Sridham. Sri Krishna, kissing the flute with his lips, started for the woods along with his herds of cows. His comrades, the cowherd boys, gradually joined him with their respective cows. They also were carrying their tiffins along with them. Sri Krishna sometimes playing on his flute, sometimes on shringa, hornpipe, or placing some leaf on his lips. He made some musical sounds. Some of his comrades were singing. Some others were dancing with playing on musical instruments, and some others were fanning him with chamara, and someone was holding umbrella over his head. These created an amusement to the supreme delight of Sri Krishna and Sri Balaram. Sri Balaram was proceeding in front of Sri Krishna, whereas I was at his back. The gopis could not bear the pang of his separation, therefore they too were following behind me. Mother Yashoda, due to her excessive affection, came up to the gate of Raj Gokul, where she, with a deeper feeling, kissed the cheeks of her darling, and with her own palm removed the sweat from his forehead. At that time milk poured out from her breast. What a wonderful affection! She was not able to part with her darling. So while Sri Krishna went a few steps, leaving the mother behind, she, with her deep concentration, fixed her eyes upon him, and once again ran unto him. Like this, time and again she did so, and every time she put either fruit juice or sweets into the mouth of her darling. Next time she orderly placed the garments. Again she came, and in a most distressing mode said, "Bo, darling, don't enter into the deep forest, and never go afar. If you are pleased to enter into the woods, yet never be away from Balaram and others. Never go even by the side of such forest where there are thorny bushes." Such many other advice she gave, and then finally left for home, but she could not proceed. In a minute, she once again approached her darling and pronounced, "Bo, the darling Balaram, better always you should remain just in front of your brother, Sri Krishna. Bo, Sridham, you along with Sarup, be constantly on his behind. Bo, Amshuman, you ever be by his right. And Bo, Subal, better you should be at his left." Her expressions were very heartrending, as it were, and she was extremely anxious about her darling. Her loving affection was so surmounting that it supersedes the attachment of a mother cow to her newborn calf. Sri Krishna gave a promise to her that he would be following all her instructions, and the Lord touched her feet and insisted upon her to return home. Now, being assured by Sri Krishna, Mother Yashoda tried to return back, but after coming back a few steps, she climbed a high mount, and from there uninterruptedly gazed upon her darling till he went out of sight. The most lovely gopis, who also still were following, singing his pastimes, got their throats choked with great emotion because of their separation from Sri Krishna. Therefore, any further they could not sing. Someone slipped down, being overpowered with the thought of would-be pang of separation, and their eyes were overshadowed out of sorrowful tears. They could not expound the feeling of their cupid heart due to fear as well as shame. Finally, those innocent gopis, cogent with their alluring hearts, were plunged into the ocean of pang of separation. But some of the gopis went after, up to the closeness of the woods, as they were so much infatuated by the beatitude of Sri Krishna that they were not able to part company with him. Ultimately, when Sri Krishna personally insisted upon their return, they became standstill, gazing upon Sri Krishna with their oblique side glances. Now Sri Krishna could read out their heart's feeling, and therefore accordingly enticed them by enticing his eyes, at which they felt ashamed, and also a fear, as they thought their cupidity might come to the notice of Mother Yashoda, who was still gazing upon Sri Krishna from a distance behind them. Therefore, further they could not proceed, but they too mounted a high place and observed Sri Krishna's movement. Here, Sri Nanda Maharaj and other eldermen were amazed, observing the surmounting affection of his queen Sri Yashoda towards their darling Sri Krishna. He too was following. Aha, what a divine affection! Sri Nanda Maharaj, along with elder men like grand old Upananda, too could not prevent themselves to be far away from the sight of their darling. Although they could notice auspicious and phenomenal events and other good signs of movement of birds, bees, cows, and deer, etc., yet they muttered invocations. Ah, then Sri Nanda Maharaj embraced Sri Balaram and Sri Krishna most heartily, and also took smell of their heads, when tears rolled down his cheeks. Sri Balaram and Sri Krishna touched the feet of Sri Nanda Maharaj and humbly requested him to go back for attending to his routine works. Sri Nanda too stopped for a long while, gazing upon him, Sri Krishna. When Sri Krishna and Balaram, along with their comrades and cowherds, entered into the woods and went out of their sight, and the music of his flute could not be heard of, then Sri Nanda Maharaj promised that he would be sending an expert messenger to bring news about Sri Krishna from the woods. Then only Mother Yashoda and other gopis returned to their homes. The gopis who were plunged in the pang of separation could somehow compose themselves by singing his law and thinking about their reunion once again at the approach of the twilight. Ah, who will be able to expound the feeling of those gopis' hearts? Nay, even Sri Anantadev will not be able to do proper justice in this respect. Therefore, it is damn foolishness for one who feels proud to narrate it exhaustively. Sri Krishna himself could not feel happy by sending them back home, especially when the feeling of the gopis touched his heart. But as his comrades forced him to follow them, and he along with them entered into Sri Vrindavan, his cowherd friends eloquently spoke about the super excellent beauty of Sri Vrindavan. Accordingly, he too, giving response to their utterances, said, "Ah, really it is so enchanting. How the bees are humming. Deers and birds are making delightful sounds. Water as clear as the mind of exalted souls, and wafts the fragrance of lotuses. Peacocks dance in joy. The female deer, like the gopis, bring delight to us with their glances, and the flocks of cuckoos welcome us with their sweet notes." So saying, he composed himself. Delighted thus at heart at the sight of the glorious Sri Vrindavan, what enchantment he created by enacting very many leelas. It is very hard, nay impracticable even for me to perpetuate those sweet sports. Therefore, how my tongue may be capable to expound them. Ah, what super excellent pastimes he created while he tended cows at the feet of Sri Govardhan Mount, and also while he took the cows to the Yamuna for quenching their thirst. And again, after returning to Vraj at twilight time, he joined with the Vraj gopis and enraptured their hearts by sporting with them as usual. Although the capital of Sri Nanda Maharaj was existing at Nandeshwar, yet the admirers of Sri Krishna, who all are eternal inhabitants of Goloka, the super excellent transcendental plane, ever cherished to join him in the woods. Bo, Brahmana, my feeling of ecstatic bliss at Goloka is the supremest, which cannot be related eloquently through any expression. Anyhow, just a hint may be given. As such, the devotees who all stay at Vaikuntha enjoy far superior type of bliss than the mere muktas, Brahmagyanis. This is established by the crest-jewel devotees in an undisputed manner. Again, the devotees of Sri Ramachandra, who all eternally remain engaged in his service at the transcendental plane of Ayodhya, enjoy superior type of bliss than at Sri Vaikuntha. Accordingly, the devotees of Dwarka are superior to the devotees of Ayodhya. But this ontology of gradation of loving sentiment is justified only by those who naturally possess the unalloyed transcendental and reciprocating allurement. Therefore, the bliss that the devotees of Goloka enjoy is the paramount happiness, surpassing the bliss of all other spiritual planes. There cannot be found any similarity which will be helpful to give even partial explanation of this super excellent bliss of Goloka. So how a tongue will be adequate to give vent to it? The esoteric aspect of that bliss comes to the realization of one who is endowed with the particular transcendental sentiment. Therefore, it is the spiritual fact that only those who are eternally existing at that spiritual plane of transcendence, of Goloka, they alone know the esoteric aspects of such pastimes of Sri Krishna, which are of transcendental character. And therefore, those fortunate souls who adhere to them, they may have the chance to feel that bliss. To make the fact known that Sri Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were the manifestations of Sri Dhrana and Dara respectively of the heaven, Padma Purana speaks that Dhrana and Dara actually were the Pratirup, reflection, of Sri Nanda and Yashoda of Vaikuntha, and Sri Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, in fact, are eternal Parshada devotees of Sri Krishna, Lord of love, transcendent at Goloka. Actually, those Nanda and Yashoda who are known as eternal Parshadas of Sri Narayan of Vaikuntha are none but the incarnation of Nanda and Yashoda of Goloka. Likewise, the devotees of the heaven are the reflections of the respective devotees of Sri Vaikuntha. As and when Lord Vishnu makes his advent on earth, accordingly for rendering service to him, the Devatas too make their manifestations. Sri Krishna, the supreme par excellence, Avatari, the very fountain source of all incarnations, is no doubt morphologically tantamount to all his incarnations, but ontologically his characteristic beatitude is super excellent and paramount. Accordingly, Sri Krishna's personal devotees, such as Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, etc., of Goloka Vraj, have got their ontological and morphological distinction and non-distinction with the Parshada devotees of Vaikuntha. By dint of his supralogical power, Sri Krishna generally makes his partial manifestations, Amsha Avatar, which are known as incarnations of Vishnu on earth, and at times he descends with his self-some Svayamrup manifestation, Avatari. Accordingly, his Parshadas also follow the suit. As Sri Krishna of Goloka Vraj, the supreme par excellence, when incarnates with his own self-some manifestation, Avatari, at that time all his other incarnations, with their respective characteristics, take shelter within him, with a view to fulfilling his mission. Accordingly, when his personal eternal devotees of Goloka Vaikuntha come down along with him, their other aspects of manifestations also hide in their persons to be useful for rendering certain service. Therefore, it is the truth from that point of view, as stated by the Munis, that Sri Drana and Dara of heaven incarnated as Sri Nanda and Yashoda at Vraj Gokul. And it may be further illustrated as such. The Avatari Sri Krishna is sometimes addressed by the respective devotees as Vamana, Varaha, Nrsimha, because all of them are existent in his person. Accordingly, his eternal Parshada devotees like Nanda Maharaj of Goloka Vraj hold in person his own reflection, Pratirup, Sri Drana of the heaven. Therefore, sometimes he is underestimated as the manifestation of Drana, so on and so forth. Bo, Ramana. Therefore, you should not be confused in this divine aspect of Lord's Leela. You should not have imprudency that when Goloka is the far superior plane from Sri Vaikuntha, then how there can remain such elements like Kamsa, and also how it is that non-sentient objects such as wooden carts and dusts raised by the hooves of cows remain there. Again, at a time, how Parshadas of Vaikuntha like Nanda can incarnate entering into the person of Nanda of Goloka. But such doubts should not be raised at all, as heretofore crest jewel Param Bhagavat Sri Narada already spoke about it in the previous chapter, and also further it will be illustrated in course of narration. Bo, the covetous lover of Raj Ras, as I have already told, although nobody is capacitated to relay the esoteric aspect of the Goloka law, yet by dint of Sri Krishna's chosen favour, I shall narrate it to some extent before you, but kindly hear concentratedly. In the Goloka, there are crores of boys, young and old gopas, who all think individually that he is only the dearest one to Sri Krishna and none else. Nay, not only each of them thinks such, but really in their action too, they do so, and accordingly Sri Krishna too reciprocates. But the beauty is this, that yet they feel humble, and this very characteristic of humbleness and their love for Krishna ever increasingly surmount. Accordingly, at that Goloka, there are crores and crores of gopis, who all possess their respective characteristic of super excellent poignancy of love for Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna too reciprocates their sentiment. Therefore, after hundreds of Commonwealth conferential symposia among the crest jewel Param Bhagavat devotees of the Lord, we have come to the final conclusion that among the dear ones of Sri Krishna, the gopis are the best, and it is true that equal to them cannot be found anywhere else, including at Goloka. Yet at times, when Sri Krishna shows his special favour to a particular gopi, then naturally it is understood that the particular gopi is the dearest one to him. Although each one of the gopis, as per their respective characteristic poignancy of love, serves Sri Krishna and enjoys the super excellent bliss thereof, yet the enlivened cogency of praying is such that each one of them feels that she is not blessed with enlivened poignancy of praying for Sri Krishna, and humbly craves to be accepted by Sri Krishna as his servant maid. Such is the greatness of their enlivened love. The enlivened poignancy of the love of the gopis is fathomless, ocean-like, and so esoteric in its transcendental aspect that even it cannot be argumentatively concocted by the very Great One. Therefore, it cannot be adequately expressed. Bo, Brahmana, further you listen. Once Sri Krishna, the darling of Sri Nanda Maharaj, was sporting on the sands of Yamuna. He was intimated that the Kaliya serpent once again has come to his lake on the bed of Yamuna. At once Sri Krishna went there and climbed up a kadamba tree and jumped from that tree into the pool where the Kaliya serpent was living with its full family. With the volume of its water swelled by the poison of the serpents that were agitated by the vehemence of the plunge taken by Sri Krishna, the pool, whose terrible ripples had been coloured by the action of the poison, overflowed in all directions and expanded to the extent of 100 danu, about 400 cubits. The Lord started his sports of swimming in the pool, and time to time was thumbing on the water. Hearing the splash of water stirred up by the Lord, the stupid Kaliya enclosed the Lord in its coils, and the Lord, who does always fun of amusements, played a joke. The cowherd boys suddenly found him disappearing from the Yamuna bank where they were in a sport. They at once felt as if they were void of life. Anyhow, following the footprints of Sri Krishna, which were marked with flag, thunder, and goad, etc., they ultimately reached the bank of Kaliyapool, and soon they saw Sri Krishna at that condition enclosed by the coils of a venomous snake, dropped down senseless. Oh, even if Sri Krishna went at times behind a tree, the obstacle of sight of Sri Krishna thereof brought a death blow to the cowherd boys, such was their affinity towards him. In utter distress, cows, bulls, calves, and other domestic cattle, as well as forest beasts, stood on the bank weeping, with their eyes riveted on Sri Krishna. The birds, with howling cry, flied over the pool and dropped down into the water. All the trees, plants, creepers at once dried up as it happened when a forest fire breaks up. Meanwhile, in Vraj, most terrible and grave portents of 3 kinds, foreboding imminent danger, appeared on the earth, in the sky, and in individuals. Noticing them, Sri Nanda Maharaj and all others of Vraj became restless, suspecting some wrong with their darling, and apprehending some danger might have befallen to their darling. All of them came out of their doors to inquire about Sri Krishna, who is the very life of Vraj. Just then, an old man, as if instigated by Sri Krishna himself, in a great distress, ran to Nanda Maharaj, and with beating his breast and loud cry, told about the condition of Sri Krishna at the pool of the Yamuna. The words of the old man entered into their ears as if it was a bolt from the blue, and they were almost lost. But Sri Baladev, who didn't accompany Sri Krishna on that particular day, saved them by shouting, "It is absolutely a misnomer. A misnomer. Don't be so much perturbed." Anyhow, Sri Baladev requested Mother Sri Rahini Devi to stay at home, and he himself issued forth from Gokul and proceeded with others towards the pool. On his approach, what he saw that perturbed him to the extent that he raised a hue and cry, as if it touched even the feeling of the non-sentient beings, and soon dropped down senseless, following the suit of Sri Yashoda and Nanda, who already were lost in a swoon out of grief. Now, from all corners, only the most heart-rending, despairing, and alarming cry of the whole universe was at a melancholy. Anyhow, soon Balaram got back his senses, and as he is the best among all to comprehend, made himself to be composed. Now, after a while, Sri Nanda Maharaj and Sri Yashoda soon got back their senses, got up and tried to jump into the pool, but in time Sri Balaram caught them up by their hands and saved them. All the Gopas and Gopis who all went there were lying down on the earth in swoon. At that such a critical condition, Sri Balaram, with a great emotion, cried out, saying, "Bo, Bhagavan, these Gopas and Gopis are neither the Parsadas, eternal devotees of Vaikuntha, nor the monkey devotees of Ayodhya, nor even the Yadavas of Dwarka, but they are the eternal inhabitants of Goloka, to whom you are the very stay, life. Void of you, void of life to them. Therefore, even I am unable to save their life without you. Bo, the mercy embodiment, Lord. So better soon, you, giving up such mysterious sports." Sri Baladev could know that it was a funny sport, that the Lord wanted only to disclose some mystery behind it. "Come out. Otherwise, none of these Gopis will have their life in their body. Bo, the sweetheart of the Gopis, even now, if you do not respond, then ultimately at their loss you will have to lament, as you are so soft and kind-hearted." Sri Swarup said, "Bo, Brahmana." By then the Gopis somehow got back their senses, and in a great distress bitterly lamented, and once again fell in swoon. Once again, when they got up from their swoon, they tried to enter into the pool for approaching their only life, Krishna. When the Lord gave up the fun, and escaping himself from the encircled coil of the Kaliya, he leapt on its broad hoods, and in a rapturous mood stretched both of his blissful arms, with a call to the Gopis to join with him. In no time, mysteriously, the witty connoisseur brought all the Gopis and made them stand on the thousands of hoods of the Kaliya. The gems on the hoods of the Kaliya were twinkling and became brilliantly shining at the very touch of the Gopis and their beloved. Now, accompanied by his sweetheart, Gopis, the Lord started his dance on the aquamarine arena on the hoods of the Kaliya. He enjoyed the Rasa Krida dance with the Gopis, but mystery behind it was that Sri Nanda, Sri Yashoda, and other elderly gopas and gopis who were prevented by Balaram to jump into the water could not notice this amorous sports of the Lord, as the mysterious Yoga Maya created such mystery at the command of the Lord. At the end of this amorous sports, the Lord subdued the Kaliya and smilingly took away the upper cloths which were covering their breast of the chaste wives of the Kaliya, while they were with their joined palms and made their panegyric to him. And he joined those clothes, and making a rope, put it into the nostrils of the Kaliya, and then holding by his left hand, like a chained riding horse, sat on its hood. The Lord made him move with the chain-like rope, holding by his left hand, whereas taking the murali, flute, he kissed it with his lips. It was not at all a punishment, but truly a great divine favour, almost equal to the Lord's own carrier, like Garuda. Rightly, the chaste wives of the Kaliya stated while they made their panegyric. They spoke. As a matter of fact, this is a boon conferred on us by you, inasmuch as our punishment to the wicked indeed wipes out their sins. Your wrath itself is esteemed as a boon, in that it has ridden our husband of the sin, as a result of which the state of a serpent was inflicted on this embodied soul. The wives of the Kaliya offered plenty of valuable presentations, such as the gems, clothes, garlands, and perfumes, which Sri Krishna first kept on the hoods of the Kaliya without accepting them. But next, the chaste wives of the Kaliya brought lotus and lilies from the bed of the Yamuna, and then, with the permission of the Lord, they decorated the Lord, along with the gopis, with all those materials. Next, once again being hailed by the Kaliya, he came out from the pool with the gopis, unnoticed by others. As Sri Krishna presents himself amidst them, the cowherd boys danced in a great joy, whereas Sri Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, and all other elderly gopas and gopis kissed his cheeks and bathed him with their joyful tears, and also invoked their blessings. Forthwith, the Lord told Kaliya, O serpent, accompanied by your kinsfold, progeny, and wives, at once leave this pool, so that the water of this pool be used by the bovine race and human beings. Next, amidst a great amusement, the Lord, accompanied by the gopas and gopis, returned to Nandavraj. Once, two mighty demons, Keshi and Arishta, sent by wretched Kamsa, entered into Nandavraj. Keshi came in disguise as a colossal horse, and Arishta in disguise as a bull with a huge body and a large hump, shaking the earth, torn by their hooves. At their violent and thunder-like roars, the gopas and gopis of Nandavraj were extremely frightened. Seeing their exceptionally huge body, which touched the sky, so to say, and their thunder-like roaring, many swooned and fell unconscious. Sri Krishna, when he saw his own men were terrified, at once got up to meet the challenge. His well-wishers tried to prevent him, but he assured them, and with a great prowess proceeded to the place where the demons were terrifying. The Lord first kicked with a great force Keshi, at which Keshi was thrown at a long distance, and then the mighty Lord tied up easily the gigantic bull, Arishta in disguise, and putting a hole into his nostril, dragged him to Gopishwar Mahadev as his riding animal, carrier. Next, once again, when the Keshi with greater ferocity came, at once the Lord vanquished his prowess, and riding on his back, taught him a good lesson. As the horse was a huge one, so he took along with him many elderly gopas on its back, and went in a merry-go-round, sometimes lifting in the space and at times in different parts of the universe. Ah, what a wonderful might that the Lord showed. Thus, subduing and subjugating the demon Keshi in disguise of a horse, the Lord tied him up with a rope in Vraj for further riding. Thereafter, he took the bull, Aristasura in disguise, from the place of Sri Gopishwar, where it was kept for some time, and maintained it for pulling the cart to carry at times the gopis. When Sri Krishna was staying at Nandishwarapura, at the instance of Kamsa, a Krura came to Vraj from Mathura to take Sri Krishna there. On hearing this news of Akrura's mission, the Gopas and Gopis, apprehending their pang of separation, entered into such a pitiable condition that cannot be given in any expression. Nay, the non-sentient beings even gave vent to their feeling, and they actually broke down. Akrura arrived at Vraj by the evening, and at night itself this news spread out. The Gopas and Gopis spent the night sleeplessly. They were at a melancholy with their bereavement. They lamented, and time and again went into swoon. Mother Yashoda, to whom Sri Krishna was the very life, got so much frightened, apprehending that beastly Kamsa might harm her darling. She even hid her darling Sri Krishna by covering some clothes. But in the following morning, Akrura consoled Sri Nanda Maharaj by pointing many reasons, and then Sri Nanda Maharaj went to his queen, Sri Yashoda, who was even then weeping. He gave full assurance to her, and then brought Krishna out from hiding. Mother Yashoda, in that state of melancholy, also told Sri Nanda Maharaj, I actually put my very life, nay, more than the life, in my darling at your risk. My humble prayer is that you kindly keep constantly my darling by your side. Don't leave him even for a while with anybody else, and humbly beg that at the earliest he should be brought back to me. She was not able to part with her darling even for a trice. She was extremely perturbed and became speechless. Only tears began to flood her breast, and with great difficulty she returned to her room, leaving Sri Krishna with Akrura for being taken to Mathura. Every one of Nanda Vraj became nonplussed and could do nothing but cry. So only a hue and cry spread out over the air. Bo, Brahmana, even today, if we recollect that condition of the gopis, at the pang of separation from Sri Krishna, the heart breaks down. Nay, stone gets melted. Water flows from the dried tree as a mark of shedding tears. The thunder breaks down. Not only that, it makes the whole world plunged into the ocean of melancholy. Nay, at this none can survive. But something mysterious, that for the sake of Sri Krishna they could survive. Now who will console whom? Yet Mother Yashoda expressed to them, Dear ones, I have sent my darling with Akrura, who is a son of a Muni, and made my fervent request to Maharaj Nanda to keep constant watch upon him, knowing it certain that sooner he will be sent back to me. But the gopis, having that state of extreme perturbation, angrily spoke to her thus: Merciless and ignorant Yashoda, oh, you are a fool. You have offered your darling to a messenger sent by Demon King Kamsa. It is like an offer to a tiger. And how you could come back to the room without Sri Krishna. Oh, you have become so hard. Accordingly, they found fault with Sri Nanda Maharaj and pronounced curse against Akrura. No longer they could remain within the doors. Their state of melancholy reached still higher. They ran from their houses, bitterly crying for their beloved. Here, Sri Baladev, Gopas, and Sri Nanda Maharaj, who were accompanying Akrura, were so much moved at their bereavement that they were lost in a swoon. Sri Krishna himself could not control his emotion. He too broke down, at which all the inhabitants of Raj entered into a senseless condition. Sri Krishna, who is the very shelter of the gopis, soon got himself composed, and when he saw his sweetheart gopis in that state of trance, he immediately jumped from the chariot and brought the life back in the dropped up bodies of the gopis. Lo, without the notice of others, as all others were asleep in a swoon, he took them to the Kunj grove and joined with them in an amorous sport. In the meanwhile, Akrura, getting back his senses, when he looked to his behind, he could find Sri Krishna not there on his chariot. At this event he felt unhappy, yet most cleverly he conquered the heart of Baladev, telling that Devaki, Vasudev, and other Yadavas of Mathura are extremely anxious to meet Sri Krishna. Therefore, Baladev, knowing the distress of his father Vasudev, took along with him Akrura, his uncle, to make a search for Sri Krishna. Following the footprints of Sri Krishna, finally they came to the gate of the Kunj, where Baladev, coming to know that Sri Krishna was at his merrymaking in the company of the gopis, stopped at a distance. But Akrura, the clever one, cried out so loudly that he could be heard by Sri Krishna from the grove. Sri Akrura said, Listen, Krishna, the wicked Kamsa at all times tortures the old and helpless Vasudev and Devaki. At times he brings out his sword to slaughter them. In such critical times, those two devotees are counting the days with a hope to be delivered by you. Therefore, kindly be gracious unto them. Secondly, other Yadavas are also seeking after your shelter. They are waiting with their thirsting souls to meet you soon. My humble prayer is that you kindly see to it that soon they get up from the ocean of melancholy by your advent amidst them. What more? Even the Devatas of the heaven and the pious Brahmins on earth are terrified on hearing the very name of Kamsa. So, O merciful Lord, kindly listen to my fervent prayer. The wicked Kamsa is always proud, and he does not care for Devatas of the heaven, and considers them as insignificant as a straw. And other Asura kings always praise him with sending their presentations.
Hey,
Sri
Guna,
Sarup, yeah.
excellently well read. Let's pause there and start next week with Sri Sarup. Yeah?